Okay, so this is step 2 in the process. It's more for adults that are trying this out, or for art teachers or elementary people, whatever. The next thing you're going to need is some kind of India ink. This is the NASCO brand. And then you're going to pour that ink at a station in your classroom. I don't advise your kitchen, but sometimes we got to do what we got to do. Am I right? You need to pour this into a non-spill jar. I have 2 sinks in my art room, and so both of them I have paper laid out everywhere. This is packaging I keep from Amazon because it's harder and harder to find newspaper, but you're going to need to lay this out somewhere, and it's going to have black ink all over it. Another thing, if you do not want your fingernails to stay dirty for a long time, then you need to get gloves to wear with this process. I don't know if you can tell, but I have ink from weeks and weeks ago when I did this project, still like in the cracks and everything. And yes, I used my cute little whale brush to try and clean that out. But if you don't like that business, it doesn't bother me. But if you don't like that business, wear some rubber gloves, all right? Okay, so you're gonna pour the India ink into a non-spill something, because if you're working with kids, this stuff is gonna tip over. However, just for adults, because you might be somebody like me and you learned later from your mistake, this, if you're trying to hold a paintbrush, hang on, that ink is going to go all over the place. So you need to get a glass or some kind of heavier weight, something to put the India ink in, especially if you're going to rest your paintbrush later, which you probably are. I know kids will, so if you're an art teacher, you need to consider that. You might want to dedicate some of those non-spill buckets to this part of the dealio. Okay, so we've got the newspaper all set up. I'm at the sinks. Got my India ink wash. All right, so now what kind of brush? This is not something you need to do slowly. You need to slap this India ink on all over it. So I like to use dedicated flat brushes. This is one of my old paint brushes that I've had here. Like, it could fall apart. If I pull this off, it's coming off. So this brush is going to be ruined with India ink. Yes, I can wash it and wash it and wash it, but the more I do that, the worse the bristles get. So I just dedicate some brushes for these kind of projects in my classroom. Just a suggestion. All right, so now we're going to get on to the next part of this project. This is the fun part. Okay, so this is the fun part. I'm going to go ahead and pour my India ink into my cup that's not going to spill over. All right, here we go. And while I'm doing this, I need you to take note of the following. I'm going to have to slap the India ink on here and go all the way to the edges. So somewhere on your sink or in your classroom, whatever you're doing, you need to make sure that you've got one area. I usually have long tables. They're actually an extra lunchroom table that are long and skinny, but you know, if you're at your house, you can figure this out. But you're going to need something to cover that part up, and then also a separate place for it to dry out. Okay, so I'm ready to start this process. Grabbing my brush. This part, you do not want to let it dry too long. It's obviously where you first start inking this, it's going to dry quicker than the last part. However, once this starts to dry, you need to rinse this bad boy off. I'm going to do this in real time. All right, here we go. Oh, the insanity! Is this not crazy? You're actually covering up, or it seems like you're covering up all that work that you did. But you're not, it's all good. Ink is kind of watery, is it not? Oil pastels have oil in them. So, as I like to tell my kids when we're doing water color washes and whatnot, this is what the oil pastel does. Get off of me! Yeah! And it pushes it off. So in just a bit, all right, see, that did not take a long time. No matter what the format size is, this should not take you or your kids a long time, whatever your age level is. All right. Whew. Okay, so it's gonna start to dry. Dun-dun-dun. But you don't want it too dry, or there's gonna be some problems. If you wait too long, okay, you can already see where the chalk has dissolved. But if this starts to dry out, it's going to stay. So I'm just going to do this for a little bit longer. Not too long. I'm doing this in real time, so you'll see. All right. Now, here's the next big thing, and this is something I've learned throughout the years. Let me pull this bad boy up here if I can just a bit. All right, here we go. When you're ready to rinse, make sure you have this in the sink. A lot of times people, especially children, no offense to them, they just aren't thinking. They'll turn on the water and this creates a tunnel that will go whoop, all over the place. You don't want to do that. All right, so I'm ready to go. All right, this is where the magic happens. I'm ready to go. Rinsing it off. All the places where there was chunk have now dissolved and turned black. Oh my good gravy. How great is that? My last suggestion is that you flip this upside down on the paper. And you let it dry like that for just a little while. Just a little while. And then, if you've got multiple classes, you need to work this out ahead of time. You gotta let those dry just a bit. What I just did was, by flipping it over, is I got any kind of ink residue that's laying on top of the oil pastel off, so I just patted that dry. Now I take these, and I either go put them out in the hall, that's what we do, for a place to dry because I'll have multiple classes coming in. And then if it's stiff enough and it hasn't gotten too saturated, you can put these in drying racks. If you're just at home, just leave it sit there until it dries out. No big deal. But now you've done an India ink wash. Cool.